Thank you. Thank you, Christina. You are all muted, but you are able to unmute yourself to ask questions, and we very much encourage those questions. You also can submit questions through the chat between Christina and myself. We will be able to read them and relate those to the team and to Jeremiah. And in a few days, I will follow up with a blog and a video of this session. Before we get started, I just wanted to say a couple of words on the mission for Women in Big Data. We are here really to champion your success, specifically your success in technology careers and in big data careers. We do so by connecting, by cultivating, and by championing your success. One thing that is important is to probably point how quickly we grew. We grew really from 15 people just a few years ago to 41 chapters all over the world, and we now count with over 17,000 people. That to me is a tremendous growth and is representative of the need out there for our organization. So again, welcome everyone, and welcome and thank you for your support. I wanted to say a few words about our speaker today. I met Jeremiah a few years ago, and he was really pivotal to me to change my mind and to help me get unstuck. Jeremiah is a leadership coach, and he is one of the founders of Forging Leaders. Jeremiah has spent over 12 years advising business owners, executives, and professionals like you and I on what are the right strategies that stop you from gaining your personal power, and how do you best get unstuck. So with that, Jeremiah, I welcome you once again to Women in Big Data, and we can get started. I am gonna stop sharing here and turn it over to you.
Right on. Thank you, Eliana. Your personal power is made up of three pieces. Your personal power is the way you think, it's the way you act, and it's the way you communicate. And the most important of these three by far is the way you think. Because it's how you think, what I call your perspective, that determines how you feel about other people, about yourself, about your job, about circumstances that you're in, about the world. It's your perspective that determines how you feel about these things. And it's how you feel that determines how you act and communicate. And it's how you act and communicate that determines the results that you get at work and anywhere in our life. So how you think is incredibly important. And over the next 3 sessions, I'm going to share some big ideas with you. These are ideas that if you put them into practice, if you use them, you can use to become more powerful, more influential with the people around you in terms of influencing their behavior, their decisions, getting them to do what you want them to do more effectively. These ideas will increase your power as it relates to the value you provide at work and how well you're compensated for that work. And these ideas will help increase your power as it relates to the impact you make on the people that you love the most. I'm going to start with a story. On December 10th, 2014, I was on a coaching session. This was before Zoom, so it was just a phone call with a client of mine named Paul. And Paul is a biotech executive based up in Portland. And it's the end of the year, right? December 10th. So we're talking about strategic planning for the coming year, 2015. And Paul's team of about 100 people was the #1 performing team in the entire company of about 65,000 employees worldwide. His team was #1, a company called Thermo Fisher Scientific in the biotech space. And so the agenda that he was setting for our coaching session was around strategic planning for the coming year, how to deal with some of the things he had going on right then. And he kept using a certain word as he was helping me set the agenda for our call. He kept saying uncertainty. He said, Jeremiah, we blew out our number in 2014. I think the company is going to raise our number a lot. He's like, how do we plan with that level of uncertainty? He had some change on his team, some personnel change. It's like, how do how do I manage this, without really knowing who I'm going to have on my team? That uncertainty. He said, we just lost a huge client. They're not renewing. So there's so much uncertainty going on. And he said, I've been offered a skip level promotion to move my family to China and to run our division in China. So a lot of change going on in Paul's life and a lot of uncertainty. There wasn't a lot that was solid or that he knew. And so he kept saying this word, uncertainty, uncertainty, uncertainty. Well, I'm having this coaching call with him on my phone right in front of my bookshelf, because at my old office, my bookshelf was the only place I had cell reception. So I'm standing in front of my bookshelf. And as he's saying this word over and over, here's the book that is in front of my face. So I stop him. I say, Paul, hold on, dude. There's a book right in front of my nose called Uncertainty. Let me look at it for a second. Hold on. So I grabbed the book, and it had been, I bookmarked it. So obviously I'd started reading this book a couple years prior, and I had the page folded over. So I just opened it to the page it was on, and the very first word on this page was the beginning of a story. I said, you're not going to believe this, but there's a story that begins on this page that was bookmarked in this book called Uncertainty. And you mind if I read the story to you? Maybe it's relevant. He said, sure. So I read the story. In a small village, the story goes, lived an old farmer. He awoke one morning to discover that his horse had run away. The news circulated through the town, and his neighbor paid a visit and offered condolences, saying, what a shame. Maybe yes, maybe no, said the farmer. The next day, the horse returned, bringing with it 5 wild horses. What a blessing, said the neighbor. Maybe yes, maybe no, said the farmer. The following morning, the farmer's young son tried to ride one of the wild horses, was thrown, and broke his leg. What a shame, said the neighbor. Maybe yes, maybe no, said the farmer. That evening, high-ranking officials from the army arrived, enlisting every able-bodied young man, and took them off to war. The farmer's son, however, was left behind. What a blessing, said the neighbor. Maybe yes, maybe no, said the farmer. And then I was quiet because the story ended. And Paul said, and then what happened? And I said, that's the end of the story. And Paul said, that's the worst story I've ever heard. and I laughed, and then we talked about the story. And after 10 minutes of discussion, Paul got a couple things out of the story. He had a couple takeaways from the story. He said, okay, so the first thing I take from the story is there aren't good things and bad things that happen to us in life. There are things that happen to us in life, and we determine whether we're going to look at it as a good or a bad thing. And the second thing he got out of it was, as the leader of a team, he is responsible for framing the story in a way that is helpful for him and his team. So those were his 2 lessons from the story. And we go on and have our coaching session. And at the end of the session, I always ask for a key learning. And he said the key learning for our session was maybe yes, maybe no. And he recognized he was already starting to talk about some of these changes with his team as bad news. And he caught himself. Okay? Well, 5 days later, I got his family Christmas letter. You know, some people write out a letter about here's what happened in our family this year. Well, I received Paul's family Christmas letter, and here's how the letter began. It began in a small village, the story goes, lived an old farmer. He awoke to discover one morning that his horse had run away. And Paul went on to tell the story of maybe yes, maybe no in his Christmas letter. Then he said, I really don't mean to get too deep on all of you in something as simple as a Christmas letter, but as I reflect personally on 2014, this story gives some insight into what I've been working on and who I would like to be in 2015. Namely, that you are not defined by the events of your life, but in how you interpret and react to those events. He said, I can think of no greater example of this concept than my sister Peggy, who, despite having breast cancer, decided to choose joy and become an inspiration for many, including me. I want to be more like my sister in 2015. And Peggy had passed away that year, 2014. My next coaching session with Paul was 2 days after Christmas, December 27th. I called his number. He didn't answer. I texted him, "Hey, dude, call me back when you're ready." That night, I got a text from Paul. And he said, "Sorry, can't talk. Andy's been in an accident." Andy is his 9-year-old son. He's in a coma. We don't know if he's going to survive the night. You can check Facebook for details. So I jumped on immediately to his wife's Facebook account. And here's what happened. On Christmas Eve, Paul and Anna took their 3 sons to the beach up in Portland to play on the beach. And the 3 boys were kind of running up and down a big log that had drifted up onto the shore. And a wave came in and lifted the log up. This is a huge diameter log. 2 of his sons jumped off the front and onto the beach. And Andy, his 9-year-old son, fell backwards into the water. The log rolled over him and crushed him and held him underwater. So Paul, frantically, you could imagine, is digging to try to get his son. And after about over a minute, he's able to get his son's body from under the log. He thinks he's dead. He's not breathing. His body's crushed. And he runs with him up to the highway where someone had called an ambulance, and they take him to hospital. So that's what I read. And he'd been in a coma ever since. That's the Facebook update I just read that night when he texted me. So I read this. I text Paul back. "Oh my God, that is horrible. I'm so sorry." And he texted me back. "Maybe yes, maybe no." What Paul understood was that he didn't know the end of the story, and he refused to believe the bad news about his son. Okay. Andy came out of a coma 3 weeks later. My next coaching session with Paul was on January 21st. Now, he's given me explicit permission to share all this. So here's some notes from that coaching session with him on the 21st of January. All of his energy has been focused on Andy. He said he had higher stress in the last 3 weeks than he's ever had in his life. He said that he's noticing more abundance in his life. He has more empathy and compassion. He told me that he's learned how many people love and care for his family. He said the outpouring of support has been overwhelming. Every year, Andy's Children's Hospital, it's Dornbecker Children's Hospital, one of the nation's leading children's hospitals. Every year they partner with Nike. And out of the hundreds of kids who apply, Nike chooses 5 kids to design shoes. And then they work with Nike designers. They design these cool shoes. And then Dornbecker uses those shoes at a fundraising event in this live auction. Okay. So in 2016, Andy was one of the winners. And here was the video that Nike made about Andy. I'm going to share this.
I like playing sports because I'm very competitive. I like baseball and basketball because all my friends play that. My name's Andy Grass and I'm 11 years old.
It was Christmas Eve, 2014. Andy was 10 years old when we were at the beach, and he had jumped on a log to get out of the way of a sneaker wave. He fell off, and the log collapsed onto him. He sustained multiple life-threatening injuries, including 2 collapsed lungs, a broken cheekbone, broken pelvis, broken ankle, broken toes, and a lacerated liver.
They had asked us, what hospital do you want to go to? There are a couple Trauma One centers for children, and immediately, I said, I want to go to Dornbecker.
It's almost indescribable how, important it was for him to be there. I mean, we feel like they saved his life. That first 24 hours was the most critical, part of his recovery. And there was probably, 10 different doctors all at once looking at him from head to toe with every specialty that they have. I think my biggest worry was, what's he going to be like when he wakes up? Is he going to be the same kid? As he was waking up, he couldn't talk because he had a tube down his throat. And I took a baseball and I put it in his hand. And I asked him to show me his fastball grip, so he did. And then I asked him to show me his changeup grip, and he did. And then I asked him to show me his curveball grip, and he turned the ball to show me his grit. And it was right then that I knew that his head was okay, that everything was going to be all right.
I like to think of Andy's recovery in 2 phases. The first phase was the critical trauma phase, where we were in the hospital for the 22 days. And then the second phase was his rehabilitation.
The physical therapy early on was intense.
No matter how much it hurt, no matter how hard it was, he was going to get better, and he was going to do whatever it took to make that happen. And we asked him to do a lot of crazy things that he didn't want to do, but he never complained, he never said no. He just said, okay, if this is going to help me get better, I'm going to do it.
So Andy, did you want to do a print for this?
On the pockets, we could change the color to like... They were all really nice, and they all helped me make good decisions. I like the...
It has a decent hand.
Everything is a thank you to everybody that helped me during my recovery. So like there's a KV for Candace Vincent, my physical therapist, and there is the colors for my sports teams and Grass Strong for my school. Thank you for helping me recover, and I hope you can do it for every other kid that's injured or sick.
So Nike makes 100 pair of these shoes for friends and family after they auction them off. So I was a lucky one. I got a pair of these shoes. And they've got these flourishes, trust God, joy in the swoosh. This one says, love mom, initials of people who helped him recover. So these shoes are a tribute to the people who loved him through his struggle. 2 years ago, I reached out to Paul because I had a talk coming up, and the talk was on mastering change and the power of perspective. And so I reached out to Paul because I wanted to tell Andy's story. It's so powerful to me. It's one of the best stories I've ever heard in my life. And he was enthusiastic about it. He agreed. So Paul sent me a copy of the original Christmas letter. He sent me the video. He sent me pictures, and basically anything I needed to tell the story well. And in the email in which he sent this stuff to me, he signed off this way. He said, the irony is that I wrote this letter, Christmas letter, 10 days before Andy's accident. Reflecting back, I don't feel like his accident was an accident. He said, I'd never ask him to go through that pain again, the emotional and physical struggle for 2 years. But I can tell you that he is stronger for it, more confident for it, has a broader view of the wonderful people in our world, and a deeper understanding of what it takes to fight for what you really want. Andy will do great things in this world because of what he went through. Was it the worst thing that will ever happen to him in his life? Maybe yes, maybe no. And this is my favorite story because it demonstrates the power of thinking and of our perspective. The power of our perspective. Paul was a thought leader who gave his family hope and encouragement through the darkest times that you could imagine. Paul's text to me 3 days after Andy's accident, when spirits were at the lowest, they thought they were going to lose their son. And they must have just been bursting with anxiety. He texted me, maybe yes, maybe no, showed me that Paul refused to label Andy's accident as a bad thing, and it also showed me that I shouldn't either. When big changes or tragedies or things happen in our life, we can get stuck. And we can remain stuck for months, for years, decades. And the sad thing about that is that the best things in life, joy, fulfillment, redemption, are on the other side of difficult change. What we're going to do now is we're going to break up into breakout rooms of 3. But before we do, here's the discussion. Here's the question. They give you a question to discuss in your breakout rooms of 3 people. The question is, what is something at work or in your life that you're currently looking at as bad news? So what's something in your life at work or somewhere else that you're thinking about and looking at as bad news that you could, and how could you reframe it into a story that's helpful for you or for someone around you? Okay, that's the question. What are you looking at that's bad news right now? And how could you reframe that story so that it's helpful to you and to others? All right, breakout room, we're gonna have 4 minutes total.
4 minutes total. Christina, can you help us with the breakout rooms? 3 participants per room.
Yes.
Thank you.
I encourage you to share in the breakout rooms. Don't be shy. Use your courage. You'll be getting a notification momentarily to inviting you into a breakout room.
Yep.
You will need to unmute once you're in there. What do you think? Is it going to work, or should we keep going?
Christina?
I have it.
Excellent.
I have it.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
It's, although it is, I don't know why it's doing 2 per room.
Are you okay with 2 per room, Jeremiah?
Sure.
Okay, let's launch it as 2 per room.
Okay, sorry about that.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll welcome you back in just 1 minute. Enjoy.
How much time left on the rooms, Christina? We should be coming back from the breakout rooms pretty quickly. It should be back any second. unless they've gotten lost. All right, we're coming back. Wonderful. All right. Christina, can you let me know when the rooms are all closed? I can't tell from my end.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yes, I closed all the rooms.
Okay, everyone's back. All right. Little thought experiment for you. So wherever you are, go ahead and close your eyes, relax, and imagine that you are on a work trip or a vacation, something where you're in an unfamiliar hotel room. And you wake up in the middle of the night, you have to go to the bathroom. So you can't turn the lights on, you don't want to wake anyone else up, right? So you get out of bed, you kind of remember where the bathroom is, and you start to make your way over there. Well, on the way, you bang your knee on the bed frame, which is sticking out like 6 inches farther than any normal bed frame should stick out. You hit your chin on the coffee table, you knock the lamp over as you're feeling away along the wall, and finally you get to the bathroom, and you're fine, you make it. That is how many people go through life, in this dim sort of twilight. Like you have a vague idea of your destination, of your goal, of where you want to go. You've got this vague idea of where you want to go, but you're not exactly clear. You're not clear on the obstacles. Where are they? What are they? How do you avoid them? And so most of life is kind of banging along, just getting to where we're trying to get to by feel. Now contrast that with being in that same room, but instead of waking up at 2 in the morning to go to the bathroom, you wake up from a nap at 2 in the afternoon. And you wake up, light streaming through the windows. You can see where the bathroom is. You can see the coffee table. You can see the bed frame that's sticking out too far. So clarity is light. When you think of creating clarity as turning on a bright light. Clarity allows you to see what you want, where you're going, what's in the way between where you are and where you want to be, and what you need to do to avoid or get around or go over the obstacles that are in your way. And as the leader of your life, you're the leader of your life. As the leader of your life, your hand is on the light switch with clarity. And powerful people, we're talking about personal power. More powerful people understand that it's their responsibility to create the clarity that they need to be successful. And less powerful people are waiting for clarity to come from someone else. It's often one of the things I work with clients on, is getting the clarity they need to thrive in their role. Their boss isn't giving them the clarity they need. Okay, So like, what can you do to get it if they're not going to provide it to you? Most leaders aren't very good at this. And so it's your responsibility. So clarity. And I want to walk you through clarity in a little more detail. So this is the foundational framework from which all of the leadership development that I do flows from. The idea here is if you're a leader, and by the way, you're a leader, because here's my definition of leader. If you rely on other people to cooperate with you, so if you rely on other people to cooperate with you for you to be successful, you're a leader, whether your title says it or not. And as a leader, these are the things you have to do well. No matter what your job is, what industry you're in, how big your company or organization is, if you do these three things well, you're going to be a remarkable leader. They are clarity, strategy, and accountability. Now, we're not here to talk about these today, so that's okay. We're going to focus on clarity. There are 4 clarities and that you can create, 4 types of clarity. And the better you are at this, the more effectively you create the clarity in these areas in your own life, at your own work, for your family, for the people on your team, the better job you do, the more effective leader you are, the better results you're going to get, the less drama you're going to have in your life. One of my sayings is clarity kills drama. Wherever there is drama, if you shine a bright light of clarity on the drama, it tends to wither. Drama thrives in the dark. So there's 4 clarities. The first is clarity of purpose. And this means creating clarity around what we're here to do and why it's important. It answers the why should I give a shit question. It's what we're here to do and why it's important. Clarity of purpose. Do I have time for the story? Sure. I'll do a quick story with this. Let me go here. No, I'm not going to use the photos. You may have heard this. It's the 3 stonecutters story. Hundreds of years ago, a merchant is heading to the city to market. And as he's approaching town, he sees a construction site on top of the hill north of town. So he's interested. He doesn't know what's going on. He wants to go find out. He parks his mule cart along the side of the road there, and he runs across the field to go explore and see what's happening. As he gets close to the site, he sees 3 men, and they're chiseling stone. 3 stonecutters. He approaches the first stonecutter. He says, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And the guy is not having it. He doesn't even look up from his work. He's like, "What's it look like? I'm cutting stone." Not helpful, right? Well, the merchant has not had his curiosity satisfied. So he goes up to the next stonecutter. He says, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And the guy looks up at him and he says, "Well, I'm laying the foundation for a wall that's going to rise 80 feet in the air." So gave him a little information, and the merchant thanked him, but he still didn't quite understand what was happening here. And he went to the third stonecutter. He said, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And the guy looks up at him. Of course, it's always the third person in these stories who has the punchline. The third stonecutter looks up at him, puts his tools down. He locks eyes with the merchant, and then he looks skyward and he says, "I'm building a cathedral." Three people. They're all doing the same thing. One person is connected to the purpose of what they're doing. Many people, not most, I would say, but many people are just cutting stone. They're not connected to purpose. So you may be cutting stone. You may be not connected to purpose, not motivated, invested, engaged in the work you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Some work it's more, you have to be more intentional to find meaning in some work than other work. It's not easy. But the better you are at being clear of what the purpose is and of communicating that to the people that you rely on, the more effective you are as a leader and the better results you're going to get. Okay, so that's clarity of purpose. Clarity of goals. It's your job as a leader to make sure everybody on your team, you included, and everybody who works with you, has clear goals. Now many goals are just given to you by your company. That's fine. Just make sure they're clear, like specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound goals, SMART goals. The more specific and measurable they are, the more likely you are to hit them. So that's one piece of this is making sure people have clear goals at work. But the other piece is helping people set their own goals. A lot of companies give you goals. Very few leaders work with their team to establish development goals or other goals that are what the employee wants as opposed to what the company wants. The best leaders do this well. So clarity of goals. The story for that is it's the story of waking up in the dark hotel room, right? If you're unclear on where you're going, then getting there is difficult and it's painful. So clear goals are very important. The next is expectations. As a leader of your own life, your family, as a leader at work, it's your responsibility to make sure that everybody on your team has clear expectations. What do you expect from them? What do they expect from you? Both like productivity expectations, those are the most likely to actually be delivered well. But as important are behavioral expectations. How do we resolve conflict on our team? How do we deliver and receive negative feedback on our team? What are the standards that we have on our team or in our family? What most people do is they rely on the expectations that people bring with them, the baggage, and usually they suck and they're not aligned. So the best leaders create clarity of expectations. Here's an example of this. My brother, 7 years younger than me, David, went to school at UCSD, graduated, total surfer dude, lived in a tent for a year in college. It's like, what? Loved to surf, that kind of, bro guy, and never had a professional job. Well, he came up and worked for me at the company that I had at the time. And he lived with my wife and I for 3 months. And like a day or two after he moved in with us, I'm at work and I get a call from my wife and she's upset. And she said, "Did you wipe mud all over the downstairs towels?" I'm like, first of all, I know, as you know, that there are towels that aren't meant to be used. These are the formal towels that hang as decoration in our guest bathroom. My brother had no idea. So my brother, his hands were all dirty and he just wiped them off on the nice towels. Well, that's my fault. I never set clear expectations with my brother. I never had I've never made the standards for what does it mean to be a guest in our home? What does it mean to be a part of our family in our home? I didn't have that conversation until after those sorts of things happen, right? So that's clarity of expectations. And I'll tell you, the better you do at this before trouble begins, the more powerful you are. Most people never do this. And as a result, there's drama and trouble and different perspectives. And well, that's not what I meant by that. This is what you're wrong. You're wrong. You don't need that. Create clear standards, clear expectations so that we all know the rules. You ever had a game night where people disagree on board game rules? What a nightmare. But that's what happens at work. So clarity of expectations. And then the fourth clarity is, I think I'm going too low, so I'll write it over here. Clarity of obstacles. Clarity of obstacles. As a leader, it's your job to make sure everyone on your team, and your team is not just the employees that you have. Your team is everyone you rely on. It's your boss, it's your employees, it's your peers, it's your cross-functional people, it's your vendors maybe, it's your customers, whoever you rely on for you to be successful as your team. And as a leader, it's your responsibility to make sure that every member of your team has stupid clarity, and I'll define that in a moment, on what the challenges are that they have to overcome. What are the obstacles for that person? And there are a myriad of challenges, of obstacles. Some obstacles are, we all experience them because of the industry we're in maybe, or some other common trait. Women in big data, was founded around this idea of coming together and helping each other overcome shared obstacles. So helping people understand what are the biggest challenges for them specifically, so that once we've got clarity on this stuff, now we can have strategy that works and things work better. So those are the 4 clarities, areas that if there are things unclear, you will be more powerful, more influential, better compensated, and more valuable if you can create clarity in these areas. Now, I want to define stupid clarity. 4 years ago, probably, I had a CEO in my office. Remember those days back when we actually got to hang out in the same room? And he was frustrated because the president of the company, so his direct report, the person who reported directly to him, the president, wasn't doing some basic things that the CEO thought he should do. And my question to the CEO was, well, did you set clear expectations for him? And his answer was, he should know that stuff. Like, why would should I really need to have this conversation with someone who's got 40 years in the industry? That stuff they should know. And here was my answer to him. It's on you. If you don't create expectations that are so clear an idiot would understand them, it's on you as a leader. That's your fault. So stupid clarity is about creating expectations that are simple, concise, easy to understand. Third grade language. And stupid clarity is created through asking great questions. We'll go into this in the future, maybe the third session, I think, but you're not asking enough questions. Okay, here's a game I play with clients when we first start, especially when they're assuming or guessing something about work. I'll say, okay, let's play a game. And I'll just, one of my clients is Allie. Okay, so Allie, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. What number am I thinking of? And Allie says, 42. And I say, no. She's like, okay, what, now what? Like, that was weird. I say, let's play again. Allie, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. What number am I thinking of? And she says, 65. And I say, no. She's like, this isn't fun. Like, okay, let's play again. Don't guess. Don't just guess my number. Try a different strategy. Allie, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. What number am I thinking of? And she says, is it greater than 50? Yes. Is it greater? And she goes through that whole thing. Okay, so then I pause her and I say, let's reverse this. I say, you ask me. And so she says, Jeremiah, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. What number am I thinking of? And my response is, Allie, what number are you thinking of? You don't have to guess. We guess at everything. You never, ever, ever have to guess. What do you think they meant by that? Well, when they said this, like, how are they going to measure that? What does success look like for me? All of these clients come to me constantly with like stuff to figure out, and they're trying to guess at the answers. So the golden rule is never, ever, 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 unless you're on a game show, ever, 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 ever guess. A chat question just came through. What makes a great question? Okay, so here's some examples. Here's great questions. Questions like, what does success look like? How will we measure it? What are our objectives? What are the likely causes of failure? If we were to fail, why would that happen? What is our desired outcome? Anytime somebody doesn't meet standards, anytime somebody fails you and you're not sure how do I address it with them? I don't want to hurt their feelings. They're not living up to the commitment or expectations. Here's how you do it. You have the, hey, help me understand conversation, where you ask questions until you understand why they're behaving the way they are. So this place of curiosity is incredibly powerful. Every time you assume or guess something, you're weaker, you're losing power. And when you're asking questions, you're very powerful. So here's some more questions. Hey, help me understand why you said that, or why you did that, or why you feel that way. what did you, like, what is that? Oh, did you do what you said you were going to do? Hey, how did it go? Why, how, what, when, where, who? Okay, these are foundations for good questions. Dangerous questions are powerful questions. If you're at a job interview, I encourage all my clients when they're interviewing, go in with 3 home run questions. They should be dangerous questions. These are questions that aren't softballs. They're not easy to answer. I want you to ask questions that other people aren't asking. What does success look like in this role and how is it measured? Good question, but it's not a dangerous question. Here's a dangerous question. What does failure look like in this role? Tell me about someone who hasn't worked out on your team and why you think it was. What are the things that suck about this job? If you were going to quit, why would that be? These are dangerous questions. People are scared to ask them because of how it might make the other person feel. But what I've experienced and what I've seen time and time and time and time again is these questions, if they're asked in a loving, nice way, they demonstrate strength, they demonstrate confidence, and your curiosity to really understand gets people talking and sharing things they never otherwise would share, and boom, your power's going up in that conversation. So another idea to leave you with here. A leader, oh, what else makes a great question? It's the opposite of what an attorney would say. An attorney would say, never ask a question you don't know the answer to. I'm the opposite. Never ask a question you already know the answer to. Ask about things you don't understand. Ask about things that don't make sense to you. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a meeting with C-level executives or a board of directors, and they're talking about something, and I say, hey, I don't understand this. And I ask a very basic question about what they're talking about, and they don't have a good answer. And guess what? 4 other people didn't understand the same thing, but everyone's scared to ask. So be the person who will ask. A leader uses questions the way a surgeon uses a scalpel, to cut through the fat and get to the heart. Okay, questions, and like, you can find great questions. There's books, there's articles, there's Google, there's a lot of ways to find great questions. My encouragement to you is to seek out the most powerful, best questions you can. They're out there, you can find them, and start using them on a daily basis. Use questions to cut through the bullshit, cut through the vagueness, cut through the uncertainty, cut through the dark, right? And get to what's lying underneath, which is the truth, which is alignment, agreement, understanding. These are places where we're powerful. When we're creating stupid clarity and getting to those things, we're more powerful. When we're not getting to those things and we're guessing and we're scared and uncertain and, well, what should I do? And that's when we're weak. And the world doesn't need a weak you. Your family, your organization needs powerful people. So be one. And you don't need a promotion to be this way. This is like a self promotion. There's positional power that you get with a job title. And then there's influential power. That's what I'm talking about. The power to influence people, regardless of whether you're the boss or not.
So Jeremiah, thank
Yes.
you so much. And I know we can go on forever on this topic, but I really want to invite the people on our team, the people attending this wonderful session to, and open it to their questions.
Sure. What do we got? Any questions? Better have questions after all that. Come on.
Oh, they do.
And then I've got a suggested activity for you to take away if you want to do something with this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure people are eager. So please unmute yourself, or Christina, maybe you can unmute everyone and see if anybody has any questions for Jeremiah in just our last few minutes.
Hey, Jeremiah, this is Stephanie. How are you today?
Stephanie.
Hey, awesome. So I really liked the statement about clarity kills drama. I think that's like perfect. What I'm wondering is sort of, if you're approaching another team that you're not usually working with, how do you sort of get that initial trust with them without just bombarding them with a bunch of questions where they might like question why you're asking all these questions?
What would you want to find out? Questions about what? Give me an example, and then I can.
So yeah, like say you're trying to coordinate a deadline with them, and you need to understand, you know, when are you going to deliver this to us? And you don't want to like kind of come across as I don't trust you're going to deliver it to me.
Sure. There's a great idea of the meta conversation, which is having conversations with people about how we can communicate well and work well together. So if there was a team and we needed to coordinate in order to hit a deadline, I'd go to somebody on the team who I have a relationship with, ideally the leader, doesn't always have to be the leader. And I would ask, hey, we've got this shared deadline coming up. Would you mind having a conversation about how we can work most effectively together to support each other and make sure we hit this deadline and do a great job? And they would say, probably like, hey, sure.
Right.
Okay. And then you meet with them and you're like, so, what are your thoughts? Like, how can we work together really well, communicate clearly? I know when some cross-functional groups work together, the biggest problems are they don't communicate well, they're not in the loop, blah, blah. You can share a couple challenges you've seen before, but get them talking about how can we work together better to solve those sorts of things.
Oh, great. Yeah. Like make it a partnership from the beginning. Yeah.
This is the great thing about asking questions, to help me understand and asking questions, is it is a collaboration. We are co-creating something. It's not a competition and it's not a directive.
So thank you so much, Stephanie. Wonderful question. I know we are at the top of the hour. Jeremiah, do you have a couple more minutes to answer one meta question, if you will?
Sure, I can stay on for another few minutes.
Cool. So reading the chat, one of the questions is, how do we overcome fear of asking questions? And coupled with that is there a resource or a tool to practice asking good questions?
So fear of asking questions is typically tied back to fear of rejection or looking stupid or looking like you don't know an answer that you feel like you should. So practicing rejection, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. There's this whole idea of practicing your courage. Mm-hmm. And if asking questions and speaking up and giving your opinion or anything like that scares you, then what I'd encourage you to do is start doing it in safe settings, so you can just make the practice of doing it. And the other thing is to start practicing your courage in little ways. Mm-hmm. So what is like a little bit uncomfortable for you, but that you could do and it wouldn't have a huge risk and you're not, it wouldn't be super scary. If you can practice these like micro moments of courage, what happens is courage is a muscle, so it gets stronger. Mm-hmm. And then you can do scarier things, and then it gets stronger, and then you can do scarier things, and it builds upon itself. But the opposite is true. If you make a practice of not asking questions and staying comfortable and safe, your courage atrophies, and when you need it, it won't be there.
Yeah, and I can share a very quick story with you, Jeremiah. One of the things, so I have full disclosure, Jeremiah was my professional coach, and now he's a mentor. Years ago, when we worked together, I was a person that wouldn't ask questions. And look at me now, I'm hosting for a number of people that I don't know and work with a large group of women trying to do my best to help. But more importantly, one of these muscle developer exercises that Jeremiah suggested and pushed that I did was to go in, I don't know if you recall this, Jeremiah, but when we were still able to go get coffee outside, get in front of the line at 7 a.m. on a coffee line, cut online, and ask the person that was next for coffee, may I please cut in line? Yes. And he told me to do this many times until somebody essentially yelled at me and I got rejected and I got comfortable with rejection. I did it. And this is not something I do commonly. I did this many, many times until somebody essentially yelled at me and say, go back in line. But the exercise was not to cut in line. The exercise was to be comfortable, to do something that is uncomfortable.
Right.
So hopefully that will help some of you, and please do cut in line, but ask for permission first.
Yeah, put yourself in position. If you're scared of rejection and looking stupid, intentionally put yourself in a position to be rejected and look stupid. And what you'll learn very quickly is it's not a big deal. And it loses its power over you, and all of a sudden you can do things that were impossible to you before.
Yeah, so there is a funny comment there that says, is this a good idea to put yourself in a position of rejection? But I think we are confirming that it is a great idea.
Yeah, and not so that you can figure out how to not get rejected. Like, it's not so that you can build the courage up and then get a yes. The actual purpose is to get rejected repeatedly so that you learn it's not a big deal.
Exactly. Yeah, I can attest for that. Are there any more questions? I know we are way past the time. We can also move to the exercise that you had suggested, Jeremiah.
Sure. So here's, if you want to do something with this, like most trainings, most Zooms, I imagine, they stay informational, right? You go on a Zoom or a training, you hear something, you're like, oh, that's a cool story, or hey, listen to what this person said. But it doesn't do anything in your life. That's informational versus transformational. Okay, so informational, if you just wanted this as information, you would show up on this and understand the idea. Okay? If you want to use this to transform yourself in some way, then you show up and understand the idea. Then you determine how it relates to you specifically with your goals, your strengths, your weaknesses, your situation. And then you take action and you practice. So that's how this isn't just informational for you. So if you want to do that, here's how you can do it. A couple things. And we can include these in the email that you send, Eliana.
Yep.
First is identify where you have a lack of clarity. Where are you unclear? And here's how you can tell. Where are you frustrated? Where are you frustrated? Where do you have anxiety? These are biological indicators, physical indicators that you're unclear. Because if you're frustrated, what that's an indicator of is that you're feeling powerless. And if you're feeling powerless, what that means is you don't have clarity. So any area that you're frustrated in, that would be an area that you can mark down as one you have a lack of clarity. Second, once you've done that, is to write out questions that you would need clear answers to in order to have stupid clarity in that area. So let's say there's an area at work where you have a lack of clarity, you feel powerless. Well, what are the questions that if you got stupid, clear, good answers to would help you get the clarity that you need? So write those questions down. Step 3 is go ask the questions to a person who can give you clear, accurate answers. So now you're not guessing anymore. You have the information. And then, based on the answers you receive, adjust your behavior. Based on what you learn, adjust your expectations, how you're thinking about it, and make decisions based on what you know now as opposed to what you were wondering about or guessing before. And then the 5th step on this is to spread this power. Like this idea, we get locked in to shitty things in our life, shitty relationships, shitty jobs, depression, anxiety, feeling bad about ourselves. Like we get locked into these things because of how we think. And I want to encourage you to not only practice this, but also to share this idea, because everybody you know struggles with this in some way.
That's wonderful advice. I will definitely, I know some people are asking, we are recording this session. We're going to package it with a blog. We are going to put this exercise of transformation into practice and detail the 5 steps. Okay. And with that, Jeremiah, our gratitude to you. My thanks to everyone who has attended and have engaged actively. And thank you so much. We are looking forward to the next session.
I'll be back next month. We're going to hit a different related topic. So
thank you. Thank you so much, Christina, Regina. Thank you for always being my conspirators. Thank you so much.
Great job.
I think we can stop the recording. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.